All right, so today I'm going to be working on group work, and this is probably the one I least like to prepare because it has the most amount of things to print and lesson plan for. For example, Cornell or Science, I lesson plan for that. Torchlight, I go through the next 7 weeks, pick out the books we'll need, make sure I have the YouTube links for the videos, whatever. So this is going to take the most amount of work. And I think that it's important to talk about how, do I enjoy doing this 6 or 7 weeks planning? No, it's not like, ooh, I get to plan, although I do love planning. This is definitely effort, intentional effort on my part. I think it's really important because I think it's easy in homeschooling to lack accountability. It's so easy to push something off for another day or to skip a lesson because you don't have the resources because you didn't plan ahead. Taking this intentional time to prep is saving me time and frustration later. I'm not going to be stressed. I'm not going to be skipping lessons. I'm not going to be missing resources because I'm taking this intentional time to get everything ready and holding myself accountable to this, because homeschooling is work. It does take effort. And this is one of the things that in my homeschool I have to do. So I'm going to start by printing out some stuff for Torchlight. And I'll show you what that is really quick. So I need to print the next 7 lessons in this, and you might be asking, well, why don't you print it at the beginning of the year and have the entire binder set up? I did that last year with Torchlight, and I ended up wasting a lot of my time because there was some resources we don't use in Torchlight, and I didn't realize that until we were some ways in and I had already printed stuff. So this actually saves me paper and time by not printing things ahead of time. So I will take the last 6 weeks of Torchlight, and I also have Curiosity Chronicles, the lesson plans and stuff intertwined in here because it goes with the schedule of Torchlight. And what I will do with that is when I am done with a chunk of lessons, I will transfer it to this folder, and hopefully at the end of the year I will transfer it into an entire binder that consists of Torchlight Level 3 and Curiosity Chronicles Early Modern. So when I go through this again with my youngest daughter and eventually my son, it will already be prepared. So I'm putting in the effort now, but it's going to pay off later. So this is all organized from lesson 1 all the way to when we will be done. So that is put away, and now I need to start printing the next 7 weeks. Computer, and I save large curriculum PDF files like Torchlight, Curiosity Chronicles on an external drive because there's no way my laptop could handle all of these files, and especially the stuff I do with YouTube. So this is on an external drive. But I need to print the lesson week plans for 25 through 31. And I start with this because, as you can see here, this kind of gives the outline of what we'll be doing. So I need these printed before I can make any notes. So I just printed all 7 weeks of the schedule for Torchlight, and the thing I'm going to do next, and this is probably one of the criticisms I have with Torchlight Level 3. We've enjoyed so much of it, but this is something I don't like. Because the author wrote the lessons before Curiosity Chronicles Early Modern was completely done, the chapters don't align exactly. So I think this was on the Facebook group or Torchlight. I don't remember where I got this, but this shows you what weeks align and which don't. So for the first half, the book aligned perfectly. I didn't have to make any adjustments in my schedule. As you can see here, the second half of the book, most of it's not aligning because the person who wrote Curiosity Chronicles changed the original plan that they gave Torchlight. They gave Torchlight an outline of the chapters they would have, but then they changed the chapters so it doesn't align correctly, and it kind of annoys me that the author hasn't gone back and changed it so it would align nicely, but I can understand that that would involve a lot of work. But I have to go through now and change what chapters don't align. So for example, we're going to start with week 25 here. Instead of doing section 25 from Curiosity Chronicles, I'm going to do section 26 because those are the topics that align. So I need to make that adjustment really quick on these outline schedules. To print the teacher guide sections I'm going to use, and then I need to print the corresponding student pages. So for example, we don't do vocabulary. I do print out word searches and pictures for my kids. My youngest likes to do the coloring, my oldest likes to do the word search, but things like vocabulary, I don't print out. We don't do map work, but the more fun activities or the coloring pages I do print out, but I will print them out one after the other, so I can just take them from the printer and they will be all set to go. Now that that is all printed out, and again, it's printed out in the order it needs to be in, I'm going to go through, because every section has a reading suggestion section and a hands-on activity section. Now, Torchlight doesn't incorporate the hands-on activities or any of the student instruction guide in Curiosity Chronicles. It just has you reading or listening to the chapters. So I do incorporate extra into what we do. So I will look at the hands-on activities, and I will pick one activity because we do history Monday and Wednesday. So I'll pick one activity that will go along with what we're doing in history. So I will look at the hands-on activity, and there's usually two. There's always a Minecraft building one too. My kids don't do Minecraft. So I'll pick one of those activities. I will write it down on this schedule, either on Monday or Wednesday, the activity we're doing, so I know to do that. And if there's any supplies that I need for that, I will write it down here in the notes section for myself. But having that all organized, again, I can just open and go with Curiosity Chronicles for the next 7 weeks. I don't have to do any prep work. All right, so I have gone through and all the history is organized, and I've picked out every activity we're going to do for that day and written it down. I've also made notes if there's any ingredients or supplies I would need for the activity. For example, we're going to be making cream puffs, one of the activities. So one thing I know we'll have to pick up that week is 4 eggs. So this is where I put my notes for that. That is all set to go. Now I need to go through this and actually lesson plan, because there are some things in Torchlight we don't do. For example, I don't do the language arts. So right away I'm going to cross that out. This is the read aloud. We do the read aloud. We do the how to teach Shakespeare book, but we don't do the memorization. We just talk about what the passage means, because I know right here that means we're going to be doing a new Shakespeare play. We don't do women in art just because it's too hard to get from my library. We do paint lab, that's ready. We do not do the science. But one thing we do like doing is the science comics wild weather. So what I will write down here is a book list. So I will need science comics. And that will be weather. Because we will go through this, because my oldest really does enjoy the science comic books, and I'm pretty sure she's read them all. Fantastic Failures. We don't do the craft and innovators. So that is an ebook I will have to look over. It's just some reading, and then you have the option of an activity. But what I want to do back here is, so we're going to be reading Othello this week. This is the paint lab we'll be doing. I want to look at the extension activities, see if we're going to be doing any of those. Okay, so here's a book option. We already know how maple syrup is made, so we're not going to do that. I do look down here at the media, so how do tornadoes form? We did that in core knowledge. We just did weather, so we won't do that. And here are some more book suggestions. And I do like how it has the older learners part, so we can watch Hamilton. I think that might be a good idea with my oldest, so I'll probably do that on a Friday. So again, Torchlight you can take, it's just a lot of options. You can take what you want from those options and decide if you're going to do a lot, if you're going to do a little, what you want to use as extensions. So I think that will be everything for that. But that would be an example of weekly lesson planning for a week. We do not do the vocabulary spell book. So I will cross that out, and that will be everything for that week. So next I go to the next week. So again, we do not do vocabulary spellbook. We don't do the editing or the language arts. We don't do the woman in arts or the old masters. To see what that is. Vincent's Story Night. Yeah, so the only art we do is pretty much Paint Lab right here. So these are just books we already own, and they're just doing a page. Again, so books I'll put down here. We do not do this level of science. We use core knowledge instead. So this is just continuing wild weather, and I don't read it page from page with my kids. We just skim through it. Some of it in the science comics books does get really in depth, which is way over the head of my 6-year-old. So we'll just go over the, a couple pages, see what we do. We don't do the made by hand. Toys, my kids love that book, so we will continue doing that. This is looks like we're going through the second half of the Shakespeare play Othello that we did. And we're finishing a read aloud. Okay, so this is already downloaded on my library account as an audiobook. So the only thing I need to check is Book of Innovations, which I'll show you guys really quick. There's just different activities you can do. So for example, in the last week, we made a remote control or a remote communication design. So they had to figure out how we were learning about Morse code and how that was used by spies and different things like that. So they made their own version of how they would create a communication device. So it looks like we will be doing a composer. So I will print that out. So it looks like they're going to be composing some music, which goes perfectly because we have a piano, so they can actually compose and play their music, which will be fun. And it's usually done into 2 parts, which I really like. And then it has a reflection part. Looks like they will also be doing recipes, so they're going to create their own recipes, which will be fun. And it has little recipe cards. I think this will work really well because my oldest is really getting into cooking right now. And that will be it. So I will just print pretty much the rest of this because we are nearing the end. Crazy enough, we are nearing the end of the school year with this, and this is done every couple weeks. It's not something done every week, so I will print this out. So while that is printing, and I just wrote down here compose, because they're gonna be composing music, I will look at the extension activities and see if there's anything we want to do. So we're not gonna do any of the TED Ed, like weather stuff, although I do really enjoy their TED Ed links that they have on here. We will watch this TED Ed. And we'll look over the books. I need to click this link on Torchlight on my computer and save it to a YouTube playlist that I use. Okay, so I just put that section into this book, and again, it's just a 3-prong folder, and it's really nice because we will have all the innovation and invention things they've done throughout this year in this book. So that is done, and then I saved the YouTube video onto a playlist. So I will probably just put YouTube French Revolution here as a reminder to watch it. And usually I will stick the YouTube videos in on a day we just don't have a lot. I will show you one more week of my planning. So this one, we're starting a new read aloud for this. So I'll have to check to see if my library has this. Now, before we started Torchlight, I made an Excel spreadsheet that told me where the read aloud was located. So if it's my local library or if it's something I'll have to check out ahead of time. So yes, my local library has this, so I will just have to remind myself, because we do library on Mondays, to pick up that library book when we get there. Again, I will cross off the things we don't do first. That makes it a lot quicker. Okay, so that's already taking all the things out we don't do. So where's Jane? Oh, we don't do vocabulary spellbook. So where's Jane, I'm guessing, is a book. And this is something I would have to interlibrary loan according to the list I've already made. So I will have to make a note of that because interlibrary loan takes about 2 to 3 weeks. I'm pretty sure this is like a Where's Waldo book, if I remember correctly. All right, so I will make a note on my planner 2 weeks before we do this to interlibrary loan that book. And that's one of the things I do with Torchlight to kind of, I don't want to purchase all the books that go with Torchlight because I did that the first year and it gets expensive. My library is a great system that I can utilize. It just takes some planning on my part. They had this book available in one of the library systems that's connected to my library. I just need to know 2 weeks before we need it to interlibrary loan and it'll be ready for us. So that planning really does help cut down on cost as well because I'm not buying all these books, I'm checking them out from the library. So there's that, Paint Lab. I already did Curiosity Chronicles, so the only other thing I need to do is look at the extensions. Let's see if we're going to be doing any of that this week. All right, so we'll be doing this TED Ed here. My kids do like the getting dressed, so what people wore during that time. What was life like? And then some different books. All right, so I need to add these YouTube links to a playlist. And again, it's just the playlist is just kids resources, so that keeps it really quick. So I need to figure out where we're gonna stick these TED Ed videos. So looks like we don't have a lot going on here. So we'll do a YouTube video here and 2 here. So we'll do the TED Ed one and getting dressed. And then what life was like. All right, so that would be another example of a week. So I need to get this book from the library. So I will put that down here, and I need to interlibrary loan that 2 weeks before we get there. So that would be an example of how I lesson plan for Torchlight. So now I get to check things off. So Curiosity Chronicles was printed, sorted. Innovators, Torchlight Innovators was printed, Torchlight was printed, and I have lesson plan for the next 6 weeks for that. I've gone through, figure out which library books I need and when. Art is pretty easy. We just do Paint Lab, which is an ebook, and then you do Hardcourt Art, which is just flipping to the next lesson, so there's really no prep for me in that. So the only thing I have left to prep is Core Knowledge Science grade 4. I need to print and do some lesson planning for that. And that is all I have left, which will be done for another day because that was a lot just doing that lesson planning. Today is the last day of prep for the next 7 weeks. I'm pretty excited. So I'm going to be prepping Core Knowledge Science grade 4 units today. I will probably only prep 2 units because I do not envision us getting through more than 2 units in the next 7 weeks. So the first thing I'm going to do is make sure that I have the student readers downloaded on my kids' Amazon Fire tablet. I'm going to make sure I have the teacher guides downloaded on my Samsung tablet, and this is one you can annotate with a pen. So you can see here, this is the first teacher guide for the first unit we'll be doing. So I need to make sure there's a file for those, and those are all downloaded. And then what I'm going to do, like I did with the previous work my kids did, I'm going to take this last 6 weeks of what they've done for science and pick out a few samples and put it in their portfolio. Now, most of the samples will go in my 4th grader's portfolio under her science tab, because most of the work, at least the handwriting and things like that, are done by her. Or my 6-year-old first grader does join us for Core Knowledge Science, but most of it is just oral with her, and she doesn't do a lot of writing. If she does any type of coloring page or something that she contributes to, I make sure and put that in her portfolio, but the bulk of it will go in my 4th graders. So I'm going to make sure those are downloaded. I'm going to switch the stuff to the portfolios, and then I'm going to show you what I print out from Core Knowledge, because I don't print out the reader, I don't print out the teacher guide. I did that last year when we first started, and this is just a lot easier having it electronically and then printing out the things I need. So this is the first unit in 4th grade science. We had previously done a human body unit, and then we had to finish one of the units from last year up. So we're halfway through the year and we're starting 4th grade, and that's completely fine. You can stop and go with core knowledge as much as you want. You don't have to stay necessarily on grade level. So this is the first unit in 4th grade. And this is the teacher guide. So what I'm going to print is, like I've said in previous things, a lot of this, read through it, but you don't need printed copies of it. A lot of it's just where they're getting the information, the standards it's hitting. It is useful information, but not something I'm very familiar with core knowledge. So they do provide a sample pacing guide. Because we only do science 2 days a week, I just do my own. So this is something I will print, and I will lesson plan based on this. So I will print that out. And then the only other thing I will print out is the handouts or worksheets that go with the chapters. So we will be printing all these out. And for things like vocab, there are a couple vocabulary ones we don't do. For example, we do not do like vocabulary crossword puzzles or anything like that, or fill in the blank, but we do the activities, and most of the handouts are activities that go with what you're learning about. So that will be printed out. So that is all printed out and sorted and ready to go. One other thing I do print out that I forgot to mention is the activity pages answer key and unit assessment answer key. I make sure I have this on hand so I don't have to refer back to the teacher guide or scroll down. So I just put this on the left side of the folder, and I have all the answers to all the worksheets if I need to reference them. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to look through the teacher guide and start actually writing down what we're going to be doing. Now with core knowledge, I do think it takes a little bit of prep work. I think doing this 10-15 minutes going through figuring out what supplies, they do provide a supplies list for each lesson if you want to do it that way. So I will make notes above when I need to get any type of supplies, but I find this makes it just open and go for us. Taking this 10-15 minutes to get what I plan on doing for the next 7 weeks really saves me so much time later on. So first thing I'm going to do is I do have my colored erasable pens. These are the off-brand. I do have a couple actual friction, but the off-brand works just as fine. These are ones I found on Amazon, come in lots of different colors, last a long time. So I'm going to write or underline energy transfer and transformation because that is this unit we're doing. And then I'm going to look at the teacher's guide and start writing our days. So again, we do science 2 days a week. So each 2 days will be a specific color. So the first 2 days will be this color, the next 2 days will be this color, and that's how I can easily distinguish between lessons. So here is lesson 1, as you can see here. So I will scroll down. We don't do the vocabulary index cards with that. We did it last year, and I don't really see the point of it. So it will tell you right here what materials you need. So I have these things on hand. I won't have to worry about that. I've already printed all the activity pages, so that's good to go. The student reader's already downloaded on my kid's tablet. So I will read over really quick. And do I read every single thing? No. But what I can see here is that we're going to read chapter 1 and answer some questions. So over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write lesson 1 on top, and then chapter 1 and questions. That way I know that's what we're going to be doing to start off with. So as you can see here, we have an online resource. And this is one of the things I really like about core knowledge is that it provides these online resources to go with each lesson, each chapter. So you click on that, it brings you to the Core Knowledge Science online resources. You just find the name of the book you're doing or the unit you're doing, and it will give you the lessons. So I'm obviously in lesson 1. So there is some stuff about here for teacher use, but this is what I'm looking for. So these are the video it was talking about showing, and it's got some videos or some questions that go with that video. So what I will actually do is, most of these are saved in like YouTube. Sometimes they're direct links. If it's a direct link, I will save it in, see, this is a YouTube. So if this is a YouTube, I will save it in my YouTube playlist for Core Knowledge Science. If it's a direct link, I'll just bookmark it on my laptop. So I will come over here, and I know the second thing we're going to be doing is a YouTube rocket launch, and that way I know I can just quickly glance at the teacher guide and know we're going to read this, we're going to do this. It's a framework of what we're going to be doing. I wrote that down, online resource. I like to know the science. This is really good information, especially as you're teaching it, because like I've said in the past, I'm not an expert on these things, so I really do appreciate that these things are included in here. We do not do the index cards, but we will go over what these vocab words mean. These are in the readers, so we will discuss those while we read it, and then just the page that goes with it, which I've already printed out. Over here, I will write 1.1, because I know we'll be doing that. And that is it for day 1. So we'll do lesson 2 on day 2. That is it for lesson 1. We're going to read the chapter, do the questions, we're going to watch a YouTube video, we're going to do an energy scavenger hunt, and then we will go on to day 2, which will be lesson 2. So I'm going to really quick show you one more. So I'll write lesson 2 on here, and then I'm going to go over and read what I have to do for lesson 2. Set up similar to the other lessons, so I've already printed these pages out. So I would write down that I would need some of these items for the lesson we'll be doing. So I will make a note, and I will only write the things I know we don't have. So I know we have a flashlight, I know we have a plastic cup, I know we have rubber bands, I know we have balloons, I know we have salt, I know we have a phone, I know we have a candle, I know we have a lighter. So there's nothing I need to specifically pick up for that. So I'll look at this again. So this is just opening questions we start with. It's like we will start with 2.1. So I will write that on my pacing guide. So on here, I will just write, we're going to start with an opening question. We're going to do 2.1. And we'll do 2.2. And within this, there's going to be a lot of discussion. One thing I really like about Core Knowledge Science is there's a lot of discussion-based stuff. It's not just, this is what energy means. It's bringing it to a deeper level and being able to tie it into other things you've learned about. And that will be it for lesson 2. So you can see this goes by pretty quickly, and having a general outline for the next 7 weeks, this is now open and go for me. So this is the completed lesson plan, and it just works out perfectly that this entire unit, or this, energy and transfer, this entire unit will take exactly 7 weeks for us to finish. So we will end with building a energy device and testing it, and a unit review. So this is, again, the first week, second week, third week, fourth, fifth. It's color-coded to make it easier. I've made notes when I need supplies that I know we necessarily wouldn't have on hand, and all the online resources are saved on a YouTube playlist. So it makes it a lot easier, and now everything is open and go for Core Knowledge. Now comes the best part, clicking the done arrows. So Core Knowledge Science, grade 4, I have printed the worksheets that go with it. I have done the lesson planning for the next 7 weeks. So this is everything I have taken care of for the next 7 weeks. So that is it. That is everything I have planned and prepped during this week off. And again, I just did a little bit every day, sometimes every other day, just so it's not overwhelming. Everything's planned and prepped for the next 7 weeks, so everything's open and go, a lot less stress for me. And I want to make a point that I have a feeling when you watch this entire series, you're going to be like, oh my God, it's so much. It really isn't. It's broken down, it flows quickly. I know how to lesson plan pretty efficiently by this point. And there are things we do during this week that don't involve anything lesson planning. You know, we're going to the museum this week. It's my son's birthday this week. We went to the playground a couple times this week. Like, we're having fun on top of this, but I want to make sure you understand that I do put certain work into our homeschooling to make it easier and flow better for all of us involved. So if you have any questions, leave them down below. If not, thank you for watching.